So as the vaccination rates increase, the warm weather's here, we've got fully vaccinated people able to shed their mask in a lot of settings in accordance with the CDC regulations. It's now these corporate leaders have to make determinations on how do we structure this post-pandemic office life, Rachel?
Yeah, it was a lot easier when the rules were clear. The tri-state came together and had one set of rules. Now we have the CDC guidelines, we have the interpretation of state and local government, and then we have the interpretation of our leaders who want to make people feel safe and comfortable. And that doesn't fit, the same thing doesn't fit every organization, and how they're going about it is different for their people.
And Bhushan, I know the question really seems even more pressing for New York because those remote workers not being in the city has this ripple effect on its economy.
It does. And there's a real sense of excitement now in New York. The game-changing move last week of taking away masks from maybe office workers, we think will actually increase the number of people that want to come into the office. So that will have a good ripple effect, not just for businesses and their workplace culture and younger people, but also all of the economy, the coffee shops, the restaurants around them. So we see leaders wanting to have that commitment to rebuild the city, regrow the city. And so, that's got to be a good and an exciting time, while still remembering all of the things we learned during the pandemic: safety, compassion, well-being, managing mental health, being inclusive with our employees. That's still really important for business leaders today.
Rachel was speaking to that. There isn't a one-size-fits-all approach, and you just take a look at Wall Street. Goldman Sachs pushing New York employees to return as soon as June 14th, while a number of other companies are looking more to September, hybrid models. So people might work 2 days a week at their home, others going in. Some people, like Spotify, they told their employees they can work anywhere in the future. So is this kind of how it's going to trend, that each company is going to really create their own future, Bhushan?
I think what we're seeing now is there's a series of experiments. Different firms want to move at different paces. Some are bringing full teams back. Some are bringing people on a voluntary and a rotational basis. I think this will all shake out to be a lot more consistent once we solve for schools and commutes and people being comfortable around their physical safety. I think the key challenge now is how you actually, over the summer period, manage burnout. So we did a survey, and actually a third of the people that we surveyed across the US were really concerned about working hours and burnout, and really wanting some time as a currency, some time back. So managing reopening is important, but it's the summer period. We need to make sure that people have some rest and recovery, and we deal with this overwork, because I think we've all been working ridiculously for the last 15 months.
I definitely agree with that. And Rachel, I know the two of us were talking earlier in the week about this. I think you coined the term fuzziness. We're in this weird transitional period right now.
Yeah, I use the word fuzziness, chaos. I mean, we figured out with the flip of a switch how to send people home, and then figure that piece out. And we want it to be, we don't remember the fuzziness. It wasn't all easy at the beginning, and many of us figured out how to find some equilibrium. Now, this is a new scenario entirely. And to Bhushan's point, not every organization thought about this the same way before COVID. There were organizations who already had an agile approach to where you work. There are organizations who were entirely virtual. So while I do think we will see some streamlining, we need to accept that and embrace that we're going to try things. Some companies will do well with one approach and others will not do well with the same approach. And we may not all look the same. So what business you're in, what job you have, what your personal situation is, all of those things are really going to play into a point probably where we stop talking about it as much. So we won't know that it doesn't look the same. But really, it didn't all look the same in 2019 and early 2020.
And I know, Bhushan, I mean, this is a conversation that really, the future of work conversation, obviously not the pandemic portion of it, but what work should look like into the future. I mean, this conversation's been going on for 20 years.
Yeah, it has. And I think what's at the core of that is, where does the work get done? What's the role of a company? Companies want to be much more purpose-driven today and much more inclusive. So what's their commitment to bringing people back safely, but also creating good jobs for people so that they can actually be enriched? What we've seen during the pandemic is a number of businesses have to recover. the human contact businesses. We see manufacturing and construction wanting workers. They actually can't find workers. So I think that the challenge now that we're going to see over the next year is how do we bring people back? How do we reskill people across different industries? And how do we start hiring for skills and not just specific job descriptions? There's 8.1 million job openings out there. We need to make sure that we're bringing people back safely. And I think President Biden's infrastructure plan actually helps with some of that reskilling.